And I'm going to be your presenter today. Hope everybody can hear me okay. Welcome to today's webinar event. It's 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to go ahead and get started here momentarily. A few things before we get started. Before each event, if you've not attended one of our webinar events, welcome. A couple technical things. If you click the little red arrow, orange arrow on the sidebar of your webinar control panel, it minimizes the control panel, gets it out of your way. This is particularly important if you have a single monitor setup. If you have a dual monitor setup, just drag that control panel off to your second desktop just to get it out of the way. Allows you to see everything that I'm doing on our screen here. We're going to be together for the next 20 minutes or so, probably less. This isn't a terribly long or detailed topic today, but if we happen to stretch it out to 20 minutes, I will finish up with wherever I am, and in the interest of being respectful to your time. And certainly, if you have questions for me, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar control panel. I will do my best to keep an eye on those and see what we can't do to get those answered for you. Today's webinar event is being recorded, so we will have the video of this out on our support center here sometime in the next week or 10 days or so. The workbook topics, again, they were a little off on the website, but the topic is taken from our P102 training workbook, which you can purchase on our Church Windows website, of course, pages 19 through 21. We're here to talk about voiding pays and reactivate pay for transfer. So if you're interested in that and you don't have the workbook, by all means, you can purchase that, P102 and any of our training workbooks from the Church Windows website. We try to use as many of the workbooks as the basis for our webinars as we can, of course. All right, so again, not a terribly difficult topic today. They're terribly challenging. We try to time them out as much as we can, but sometimes they're longer, sometimes they're shorter. We try to get them around 20 minutes, but this one probably won't be that long. Payroll, of course, pays can be voided. There are times when we need to void those pays for whatever reason. We've made a mistake, or we've got incorrect information entered, net amount, pay amounts are wrong, check numbers are wrong. Something. There could be any number of reasons why we need to void our payroll, okay? I'm on page 19 of our workbook, void payroll, void individual pay. So we have a couple different options here. When we click on our payroll option in the software and it brings up our menu, we have a couple different options here. We've got void individual pay and we've got void EFT pays. Now, void EFT pays is different because it's all or nothing, okay? It's a direct deposit file that, when transferred to your bank, pays your employees simultaneously. We're not going to really get into that topic today, but basically if you use the direct deposit feature in Church Windows Payroll and a direct deposit payroll needs to be voided, you certainly can do it. But we're here really to talk about our void individual pay screen. So when we click on that, it opens up the same screen that we see on our page 19 there at the very top. So it displays all of the pay dates that we have posted for the year. These are for employees that receive checks, not for our direct deposit. Again, they have a different screen. And they're in date occurred order, descending. So it starts with the most recent pay date and works our way back to the first portion of the year. We're only seeing pays and checks for 2018 since that's the payroll year that we are currently in. So again, with that in mind, that there's a need from time to time to void a payroll or a paycheck, this is where we'll do that. So, it would start by choosing or finding the particular pay date. You can also click the pay date menu in the upper left corner, and you'll see all of the pay dates that are listed in the current year. So here we have, dating all the way back to the first three months of the year. Folks, this is just training data. We build 3 or 4 months worth of data into the payroll module, and then so that's why you're only seeing up through March. Or we had one entered for December that was voided. But so you can either choose the specific pay date. Whoop, not the December one. So here I've just chosen my February 28th pay date, and that isolates just that one particular pay date with all of my employees who receive checks. Okay. This is particularly helpful and useful if you do have to void all of the paychecks that occurred on a particular pay date, because if I don't, I go back to all pay dates. Notice here to the upper right here, my highlighter friend will isolate that. We've got our select all and our clear all buttons. Those are gray because I don't want to void all of the pay dates throughout the year. I just want to void a pay or a pay date. So once I select a specific pay date, notice now my select all and clear all buttons are available. With that in mind, if I don't choose a specific pay date, I can use my Microsoft conventions. So I can highlight one paycheck, or I can hold down my control key and I can select random paychecks, or I can even go so far as to use my shift key. So I can highlight one, hold down my shift, and select them all that way too. But if I need to void a pay for a pay date in its entirety, I'm going to go to the pay date menu in the upper left. Then I can do select all. It's just less work. Okay. And that talks about, highlighting random names using control, shift to select a block. Again, these are Microsoft conventions. But once I've chosen a particular paycheck or pay range of paychecks, okay, however that occurs, let me go back to all pays. So again, I can scroll down and do that either way. But if I go, okay, I'm going to void John Thomas's paycheck on March 31st, for whatever reason, I can highlight it and click the void button. Then it says one selected entry voided successfully. Click OK to cancel, to continue, or cancel to undo. So it does give me an opportunity to back out of my void. I go, oh, I didn't mean to void John's on March 31st. I meant to do it on a different date. So if I click cancel, it leaves his check there in black. It's still in effect. Okay. So if I go, oh no, I'm right, I need to void that, you highlight it, click void. It says, again, there's our dialog box. We're going to click OK through that. And just like payroll will allow you to transfer pays as they're posted over to our accounting, it will conversely do the same thing when voiding paychecks. So it says here, payroll entries were voided that had previously been transferred to accounting. Do you want to reverse the accounting transactions for those payroll entries? And folks, frankly, as a technician for Church Windows, they're 99.9% of the time I'm going to say yes to this, if not every time. Well, why? Because generally, if there's a reason why I'm voiding the pay in payroll, it's going to be pretty typical or likely that I need to get rid of that same data in accounting, whether the check number is not there or the net amount is wrong. I'm not going to want to affect accounting. Now, maybe the exception to something like that would be if, say, I have already closed my books on a particular month, okay? So here it's March, a March payroll transaction. I want to get rid of that, but I don't want to have it change my books in accounting. I might say no to this. That might be the only time I would consider saying that. Otherwise, in virtually all other situations, I'm going to say yes. So we're going to say yes. Click yes. So we click on that. It does its gyrations here, pops up transferring payroll data to accounting. Should just take a couple seconds, and there it is, one payroll transaction reversed in accounting. Okay, and it now shows up in our void individual pay window in red, right here. That's definitely, and the check mark is in the void box to the right. Okay, a lot of folks feel, or think that, oh, well, that's how you avoid that pay, is you put a check mark in that box. You can't put a check mark in it. Church Windows puts that check mark in that for you, okay? Yes, while you can go over to accounting and reverse these transactions or void these transactions or reverse them in accounting manually, it's pretty, typical it's not very common, let's put it that way. I mean, I do walk through it with folks, but under usually very rare and unusual circumstances, but you can void the payroll or reverse the payroll transactions in accounting manually. It just should be very, very rare that you need to do that, okay? But again, folks, if I want to go up to a pay date and go, oh, I've got my March 15th pay and none of those should be there, I can do select all, highlight them and click void. Same window pops up. I can cancel it to undo it and it won't void them, or I can click OK to continue. Or again, I can highlight them, hold down my control key and randomly select the ones I want and void, and the same process occurs. Okay? And again, it would ask me to reverse the accounting transactions for that as well. I'm being asked, what's the difference between select all and clear all? Well, if I've got all of mine, that's a great question. If I've got them all selected and I don't want to, I can also I don't want to select any of them. So notice here I highlighted them all and clicked on Steve and it did deselect all but the one. Well, I don't want to select any of them. So if I highlight them all or I click clear all, it doesn't matter whether I've highlighted them all or just random ones, frankly, for that matter. If I do clear all, it just deselects those entries that I've selected. Good question. All right, let's talk about on the bottom of page 20 about reactivate pay for reposting. It can be found right here under System Administration and about halfway down, called reactivate pay for reposting. Hopefully everybody can see that, fifth item down. You should have very little need for this, folks. Frankly, the only time I generally use this function is when the payroll entries in accounting either don't exist or they were manually reversed in accounting by mistake and we shouldn't have, okay? And what I mean by when the payroll entries simply aren't in accounting, an example of that is, we've got our current data through today's date and we've got it all the way current through, say in membership, but we had to restore a backup for accounting data from, 3 months ago or 2 months ago or something. Our computer crashed. And so we didn't have a backup of our data for accounting more than, like, say, a few weeks or a month or two ago, okay? So I restored that backup of accounting. Those payroll transactions for those month or two or whatever, dating back to the date of my backup in accounting, those transactions simply don't exist there. So I have this wonderful feature in accounting called reactivate pay for reposting, okay? And as it points out at the bottom of page 20, warning, this feature should only be used if previously posted payroll entries have been reversed or overwritten in your accounting file or simply don't exist. And there are reasons why we want to use this rarely and sparingly, okay? Because there are some dangers that kind of come with it. And I don't mean dangers in the sense that it's harmful per se, but it could create some extra work you don't want, okay? But before we get into that, here it is. Here's my March dates. This will only bring up pay dates that were previously transferred over to accounting, folks. If payroll or adjustments or something had been entered and posted and then not transferred to accounting, they were deleted from the transfer window, they will not appear here. The only pay dates that show up here are pay dates that were previously posted and transferred over to accounting, okay? Also, again, there are some limitations in terms of what this can do for us. Also, I can't highlight and reactivate pay for one employee. So notice here I'm clicking all I want on any one of these names under March 31st, and I can't select one. No select all, clear all. It's all or nothing. I can reactivate a pay for all of my employees on a particular pay date and transfer them over, or none of them, okay? So very important distinction. It's all or nothing, okay? So if for some reason I do want to transfer my pay over, reactivate it for March 31st, I don't need to select anything. I can just simply click React or Reactivate. And it says, are you sure you want to reactivate pay days for pay date March 31? Yes. 8 pays for the date of March 31st. Reactivated, ready to repost to accounting. Click OK. We click OK. It then immediately should open up our transfer donations to accounting screen. Here it is. And it's ready for me to transfer over to accounting, okay, to get new transactions in my books. So the other part of this, the word of caution about it is folks, this will double post in accounting if you're not careful, okay? So if I already have existing payroll transactions for March 31st in the accounting system, in my transactions, it won't do anything to those previous transactions. It'll create a new second set of transactions in accounting for that same pay date, same totals, everything, same check numbers, basically a duplicate entry. Okay, so again, two things that you have to be aware of about your reactivate pay for reposting is it's everyone or no one, and it will potentially double post. I get this call a fair amount. Oh, I used my reactivate pay for reposting and now I've got 2 sets of transactions in my books, okay, in accounting. Well, then we would just have to go in and find the 1 set of transactions and manually reverse those in accounting, okay? But sure, I can now click transfer and this will go, and post over a new set of transactions into the accounting module for that, okay? But yes, folks, if for some reason you don't have a recent backup or you've had to restore, accounting was corrupted back a month or 2 or something, and you had to revert back to a previous accounting file where some pay dates were missing, this feature could be a really big time saver, okay? As a technician, I'm very thankful it's there when I need it, okay? Very helpful and very powerful. And then, yes, we would just complete the transfer into accounting from this window like we would normally, okay? All right, so that's our topic, folks. Like I said, it's a few minutes early, not terribly long, but just be aware that these are a couple of useful features in the software. Certainly void individual pays, one you'll use probably fairly often, handful of times a year maybe. But the reactivate pay, folks, that may be something you use, once in very, very, very rarely. Hopefully, I hope it is. It's very rare for you. All right, so let's see what questions we've got out here. When printing the checks, let's say printer grabbed 2 empty checks, so the remainder of the checks are not printing on the designated check that was chosen. How to change the check numbers? Well, okay, Victoria, that's not really today's topic, but frankly, I'm just going to point it out for you. It's right here under reports right here, renumber checks. That's it. Okay, you'd use that renumber checks function. Assuming the checks that did print out were presentable, meaning they had checks and check numbers that were proper and could be assigned and the checks could be distributed to your employees, you would simply use the renumber checks routine to change the currently assigned check numbers that are in the system to those that were actually on the checks that were distributed. Good. All right, I don't see any other questions coming in. Sometimes those questions take a couple minutes or a few seconds to type in. Let me give some folks a little bit of time to, to type those in. That's not a problem, Victoria. I'm glad to help. It's just, again, we just try to keep the topics on, questions on topic here. Well, it looks like we've got some folks diving out pretty quickly here, folks. It's, again, like I said, not a terribly difficult topic. I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar for everybody. And if you have more questions, please don't hesitate to call our support staff at 800-533-5227 or email us at support@churchwindows.com. We hope to see, oh, hang on, there's some other questions coming in. How do you add transactions or line item comments to payroll transactions in accounting? Larry, you can't do that. Again, it's not really our topic for the day today, but yeah, we can't edit those payroll transactions to add comments. Yeah, the payroll transactions cannot be edited. Yeah, if you have more questions about that, please call our support staff. Myself, any of our techs included, will be happy to discuss that with you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar, everyone. Please let us know if you have questions or problems. We hope to see you at the another Church Windows webinar event. Our current list of August events are up on the free webinar, online webinar page of our website now. And again, we look forward to seeing you. Thank you. Bye-bye.